Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are here to talk about the new album from Thrice titled To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere. Now, a bit of a background on Thrice from my experience. I've never actually listened to a full-length Thrice record. I've been meaning to for a very long time. I've heard them in the punk rock clubs whenever I go, and every time they've come on, I've thought, yeah, these guys are really good. I should definitely check them out. And so I thought, having this channel now and Thrice bringing out a new album, what a perfect time to check them out for the first time. And let's judge the whole career off their newest stuff. And honestly, I'm really glad that I did that, because this is a refreshingly brilliant album, and an album that stands out even with an album of the year coming out this week, which is from Architects. So having an album of the caliber of Architects come out and then putting this new Thrice album on and going, yeah, this is really great as well, just means it's been a great week for music, and these songs are really, really good. If in any other week, it would probably be album of the week. So let's delve in to this album. The vocalist on this record is absolutely incredible. I love how he has this grit to his voice when he gets into those high registers that just breaks apart and it adds emotion to what he's singing about. And that is a really big factor in this album, is just how emotional it sounds. I have to delve more into the lyrical content of the album as I listen to it a couple more times, but the way he delivers those lyrics in amongst the brilliant instrumentation is just great. He has a great voice, great clean vocal, and a really keen ear for melody, and really knows where to put his notes. The instrumentation on this album is impeccable. You're not going to get any groundbreaking technicality or anything like that like you would on something from Architects or Tesseract or something like that. You're going to get pretty straight up instrumentation, but the instrumentation that they go with is very inventive, and while still being standard, it's just really refreshing and creative. And that's something that really lacks on a lot of albums lately, is just being creative with your instrument, even if you don't have the highest skill set. Now, Thrice are a band that I know are very influential and have influenced many bands over the years. So I'm not saying that they're not great musicians, because obviously from this album they are. In my eyes, being a great musician is purely based off what you can write. I think if you learn an instrument, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you can't write a good song, then you're not a good musician. So these guys are great musicians. They write brilliant songs. The instrumental throughout this album is really, really, really good. And their drummer really shines on this album as well. He comes up with some great beats, some great fills throughout the entire album. I also love the production on this record. It's very raw and dirty, and just feels like these guys are just standing in a room together playing their asses off, and it really shows. It again brings through some of that emotion, makes it just feel real, which is something that is lacking in today's music. It's not overly polished, it doesn't sound perfect. There are little bits where you're like, oh, that's not perfect, but it's in a good way. And I think the production on this record was done really well. Their producer should be really proud of how he got their sound out. And there's lots of variation in style on this record as well. It's not all one beat. There's lots of different grooves and just ideas that meld together really, really well. It starts off with a great song called Hurricane, which starts out with this really weird intro that's just, it threw me off the first time, and then the band comes in and it really explains what those parts were for. When there's a weird section on this record, the part that comes after it makes you go, oh, that's why that was there. So just really great instrumental, and vocally it's just a brilliant record. They experiment with a lot of different grooves, as I said before, and just the choruses are massive. There's so much melody on this record that after a couple of listens, it'll be stuck in your head, and you'll be singing it over and over and over again in your head throughout the day. And that's what I found throughout this entire record, especially the first track, Hurricane, which I think is the best song on the record. It's the perfect opener for this record as well. Really sets the tone, has a lot of different feels throughout the song, has them experimenting with a whole bunch of different grooves and going that down to a softer section, and then coming back up into this like heavier, just grungier kind of sound. And I love how much space this album has. There's lots of sections where it just flattens out and just grooves for a bit. And I love that because you just hear these little intricacies in the instrumental, and vocally he just knocks it out of the park in those softer sections. And those sections really point out the brilliant bands, the ones who can just bring it down and yet keep it hugely interesting while not having to throw everything at it. So they did that very, very well on this album. Altogether, this album is a brilliant achievement, full of great songwriting, great songs. I can't really fault this album. It goes for a couple of songs, I think, just drag a little bit, it doesn't ultimately take away from the record. It just feels like maybe 30 seconds chopped off a couple of the songs would have benefited it, just made them punch a bit more. But other than that, it's a brilliant record. I'm going to do my top 3 songs right now. First one is the opener, Hurricane. Second is the one that's pretty much dead in the middle, The Long Defeat. And then the last one is the concluding track titled Salt and Shadow. It is a great, softer, ambient, really groovy song. Close out the album. The first track, Hurricane, is the perfect opener, and Salt and Shadow is the perfect closer to this record, and The Long Defeat is the perfect in between. So those are why they are my top 3 tracks. I'm going to give this album a 4.5 out of 5. Make sure you go check it out. There are 2 great records that have come out this week, which are Architects and this one. So go get them. Help these 2 bands have a great week on the charts. And that's all I have to say about that. Thanks so much for watching my channel today. Please hit subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time. Fresh Currents.